is not a crime. It's the cops who should do time. Walking while black is not a crime. It's the cops who should do time. Walking while black is not a crime. It's the cops who should do time. Walking while black.
There's some duct tape over there.
Thank you. Cops who should do time. Walking while black is not a crime. It's the cops who should do time. Walking while black is not a crime. It's the cops who should do time.
You ready to roll?
All right, we have some pictures to take here. Then we're going to tie up the indictment. What's been happening here in the city since the Department of Justice issued a report where it declined to prosecute the officers who beat Jordan Miles on civil rights charges, on federal civil rights charges? They declined to prosecute. And the OMI report was released in secret. It's not really been released, but it was supplied. We haven't had a chance to see it. What's happened is the officers have been reinstated. And they've been reinstated on the basis that those issues are all there is to it. Those issues are not all there is to it. Whether or not the federal government prosecutes on civil rights violations, on federal civil rights violations, other crimes were committed. And whether or not the officers identified themselves, which is another thing the city's been telling people is important, whether or not the officers identified themselves, the beating that Jordan Miles suffered was completely outrageous.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They were undercover anyway. Right. But even if they were in uniform, even if they were very clearly police, that beating is outrageous.
Yes.
So what do we want? Justice. When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
All right. You're a hard man.
We want justice now. Today. Really yesterday.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank you all for coming out in this fight for justice. We appreciate you. We appreciate your heart. We appreciate your passion. And we appreciate you showing up to show the city what the residents of the city of Pittsburgh would like to happen in this case. We came today since DA Zapala is hesitant in prosecuting these police. We came today to indict them ourselves. We the people have come today to indict them ourselves. We are attempting, since DA Zapala is having a very hard time to figure out whether he should file charges or not, or what charges to file, we are attempting to assist him in making this decision clear. We have listed a set of charges that we the people feel these 3 police officers are guilty of. 1 is racial profiling.
Guilty.
The jump squad jumped out on Jordan Miles for no reason. They had no reason. They lied and said there was a bulge in his pocket, but they had no evidence to support that. They need not to support their own story. Jordan Miles stated he had nothing in his pocket, not even a soda bottle. So why did they stop him? Our number 1 charge is racial profiling.
Yeah, that's right.
Crime number 2 is assault and battery. I'm sorry.
What you saying?
Crime number 2 is assault and battery. We the people feel that there was excessive force used, unnecessary force used in the apprehension of Jordan Miles. I will cite the case at PNC Park with Scott Ashby, who was belligerent, who was huge, way bigger than Jordan Miles, and came out with not a scar.
Right.
I will cite the case of the young man who shot 3 of our police officers, who battery.
Prosecute.
Crime number 3 is false arrest. Jordan Miles was taken to court. He was charged with several charges, and the judge dismissed them. He was found not guilty. They had no reason to arrest him. They made up charges, and this is what happens in our city. This is what happens in our community. The police assault our children. They stop them and harass them for no apparent reason, and they make up a lie, and the city just believes that as if they are not human. And on top of that, then they trump up charges on our young men in our communities, and they usually stick. We thank God that Judge Petit seen through the mess. We thank God that he's seen that witness, which leads into our crime number 4, which is perjury. Perjury should have been number 1 because these police officers lied and lied and lied again. They also lied under oath in a court of law. They lied, 1, about the Mountain Dew bottle that never existed. They lied, 2, about the neighbor who was a witness in court and said she stated that she did not know Jordan Miles, and she went to court and stated that she has known him for years. Lie number 2, these police officers lied over and over and over again. This case is a classic case, is an apparent case, is an obvious case of crime. These 3 officers need to be prosecuted and found guilty. But the DA needs to allow a jury to decide. If it was you, if it was me, it would be a jury that would decide. Today we have a few speakers for you. Our first speaker will be Reverend Thornton from Grace Memorial Church, who is also the Vice President of Penn. We thank him for being here. He has joined in this fight for justice. I don't know if you guys saw the press conference with NAACP, BPEP. Reverend Thornton was there representing Penn, and we are glad to have him and appreciate him standing up and speaking about what's going on in the city.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm so glad that we're all here this afternoon. We've got to stand here as God's beautiful, diverse people. We've got to continue to stand for justice. And no matter how long it takes, we've got to keep standing. We've got to be persistent. We've got to be persistent in the midst of injustice. We've got to stand up for injustice. And when we leave here today, we've got to be bold enough to go to other people that we know, and we've got to look them in their faces and say, how come you're not standing up for justice? You can be wrong when you do something wrong, and you can be wrong when you don't stand up for wrong. You're just as guilty of a sin of omission as you are with the sin of commission. So we've got to keep on standing as all of God's people. And we've got to be persistent. I didn't come to preach today, but if I were to take my text, I would tell you about, in the scriptures, there was a widow woman who wanted justice. And she went to a judge that had no respect for anybody. And she continued to be persistent. She continued to make her case. And finally, the judge granted her justice, saying, let me grant this woman justice unless she wears me out. We've got to wear them out. We're going to wear them out in the name of justice. And before I hand the mic over, I just want to say, as I look around and see these rightful indictments here, as I see these indictments posted to this building, I'm reminded of Martin Luther. Martin Luther, many centuries ago, when he, in the name of doing what was right, stood even against a particular church. And he wanted to make sure that the some reforms in order that things would be made right. As I see these indictments, it lets us know it's time for reform right here in Pittsburgh. It's time for reform amongst the Pittsburgh policemen. It's time for reform in terms of how people are treated regardless of who they are. We're all God's people, and we deserve to be treated with justice. And if we need to reform the police department in Pittsburgh, we're going to stand until we do it. Thank you very much.
Reform! The police need reform. They need reform. They need new training. They need diversity training so they can understand the people that they are serving and the communities that they are. Some of these officers, I was just yesterday in the middle of a police chase in Wilkinsburg. The police officer gets out the car and asks me, where is he? Not only do they not know the people, they don't even know the streets and the communities that they're in. These police officers need trained for the neighborhoods that they serve. When you have an understanding of a people, in this case, Jordan Miles ran. I was told that is a culture of the police, that if someone runs from you, that is a right to beat them. That is their culture. But it is a culture of inner city communities that are crime-ridden, that if an unmarked car speeds up and comes beside you and 3 people jump out, you run. So there needs to be an understanding of the people that they're serving in these communities. It is known that they're going to run if you're jumping out on them at 11:30 at night in a car that doesn't look like a police car. Jordan Miles said that the cry of the police, the cry of the police chief about this being a teachable moment would make sense to him had he known that these were police officers. He did not run from the police. He ran from 3 individuals at 11:30 at night that jumped out of a car.
Where's your money? Where's your money? Where are the drugs? Where's the guns?
And when they jumped out of the car, all he heard was, where is your money? Where are the drugs and where are the guns? He thought he was being robbed. Who wouldn't think that? So the DA needs to look at this not as the police being involved, but as being a crime committed by 3 people on a young student who was doing nothing wrong. There is no reason for this case to still be a year later being decided whether they should be charged or not. There is no reason that after the Department of Justice has came out with their answer 3 weeks ago that the DA is still thinking about whether there was a crime committed. So we came here to advise him that there was not just a crime committed, but there were multiple crimes committed. And if he can't find one, we found 4.
Tell us, Chris.
Our next speaker will be a member of the Alliance for Police Accountability by the name of Mr. Scott Mitchell. He has been in this fight with us. He sits around the table and helps us make these decisions, but he's very quiet. So I'm happy to introduce him, Mr. Scott Mitchell.
Thank you. I became involved with the Justice for Jordan Miles movement because when I saw these images of Jordan posted on my television, I became involved with the Justice for Jordan Miles movement because when I saw these horrific images of Jordan posted on my television, they were instantly embedded in my mind. The gruesome details of Jordan's dreadful encounter with 3 plainclothes detectives drove me to outrage, as I'm sure is true for many of you. With each passing day, the news revealed more and more that made it painfully obvious that this was a complete and utter travesty that should have never happened. I have no children of my own, but I began to wonder how I would feel if something like this were to happen to my own nephews, one of whom are with me today. They live only 1 street over from Tioga where this savage act occurred. Just the consideration of this made me realize that the emotions that the Miles family must have been going through, and it made me feel very empathetic. So I participated in the June 12th march last year and have been involved in this struggle ever since. To Jordan, I would like to thank you for finding the courage and strength to join us in these recent protests. I would also like you to know, that there are many more people here with you in spirit than who is here today. Over the course of the past year, I've gone into Homewood, East Liberty, Highland Park, and I went to Shinley Park during the Black Family Reunion. I handed out flyers and I asked people to sign petitions. I approached hundreds of people and I've had hundreds of brief conversations about your ordeal. I would often walk up and ask, are you familiar with Jordan Miles? Those who didn't instantly recognize the name knew who I was talking about as soon as I mentioned ripped out dreadlocks and elusive Mountain Dew. I can only recall one woman who outright refused to sign the petition. Otherwise, the overwhelming majority of the people that I spoke to displayed genuine concern and heartfelt sympathy for you, along with anger and rage for what you were forced to endure. Many people asked me how you were doing and if I knew you personally. Most people, upon hearing what the petition was for, snatched it right out of my hands to sign. And many made sure that any friends and family members who were close by also signed it as well. We approached everyone we saw on the street, students, people en route to and from work, people leaving bars, church ladies, young urban street dwellers. I even recall approaching a large group of apparent addicts who, after hearing us out, all eagerly signed their names. I heard several accounts from people how they or someone close to them had been victims of police brutality. It is very clear that people are fed up and disgusted with the fact that our communities are quite often treated like occupied territories. Your experience touched many hearts, and all were more than willing to sign the demands for justice I have presented them with. A lot of people thank me for my presence in the community and for the work that I was doing. Going out into the street and trying to do good for somebody else and working for a just cause and trying to correct an illness of our society was very uplifting. It gave me a strong sense of purpose and made me feel very good inside. I would strongly suggest that all members of government and law enforcement try to do this as well. After all, isn't this what you're actually supposed to be doing? Now, it is very hard for me to visualize what happened to Jordan that night without being reminded of what I learned in history about slave catchers. These were men who were paid to travel north from the south to hunt down and capture runaway slaves. Some fugitive slave laws made it acceptable to kill those who resisted arrest, and the slave owner would be reimbursed by the government. On several occasions, freemen were suspected or accused of being fugitive slaves simply because they were black. They were brutally delivered to a plantation where they would be free no more. On the night of January 12, 2010, Officers Ewing, Saududdy, and Sisak saw a young man who they perceived to be a slave to the streets and to immoral and illegal activities. These policemen acted like the slave catchers, eager to return this young man to the captivity which they thought he belonged. Just as the enslaved ancestors were neither respected, treated, or even acknowledged as humans, neither was Jordan Miles. He was beaten to within inches of his life. As he was beaten to within inches of his life, he held firm to his faith, for which he was further beaten. Since then, it has come to light that Jordan was not, and is not, a slave to any corruptive influences that lurk in his neighborhood.
No, he's not.
He is a gifted and talented young man in pursuit of a positive destiny. Unfortunately, the night after he reached the age of legal adulthood, he had a near-fatal collision with 3 intoxicated men. Drunken with the power and authority awarded them by their badges, they veered over the double yellow lines of justice, caused a head-on collision with this young man, almost ending his life. Recently, we've been told that this was a teachable moment and that it is time to heal. What are we supposed to learn from this besides the police can get away with almost killing the young and innocent? How are we supposed to heal when there is no attempt to diagnose and remove the disease? When you won't even admit that what happened to Jordan was wrong? I would like to quote one of my favorite rappers, KRS-One, and pose this question. You were put here to protect us, but who protects us from you?
Right.
If this is the land that is supposed to be run by and for the people, then give the people what we want. We want justice for Jordan Miles, and we want it now. officers who are responsible for this. Thank you all very much.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! DA Capella can hear us. He can hear us. His eyes have been on us since we have been doing this. People ask, why are you at the courthouse when no one is there? We will be back, and I will be letting you know that before we leave. We will be back when the courthouse is open, when the DA is here, but we'll be here to deliver the petition that you all and the rest of the city have signed. We came last year and did the same thing while he was in office. He didn't show his face, he sent his spokesperson out to give us a message that we could not conduct the investigation while the Department of Justice was doing such. Well, now the Department of Justice investigation is ended. It is over. And now it's time for him to stand up and do what he said he was going to do. I understand the struggle that our DA goes through, that our chief goes through, in a corrupting city that they are involved in. I understand the struggle to stand up against people above you for what's right and what people elected you to do. I understand the struggle. But in the midst of corruption, you are supposed to uphold justice.
Yes.
Someone has to stand up besides us who's in a position of authority to do something about this.
Yes.
So we plead with DA Zapata today, and we also care enough to help him in his decision by giving him the charges that he so seemingly cannot find for these three officers to be charged with.
Amen.
Every time I think about this case and think about how long we have been out here in this fight, it saddens me. It honestly saddens me. I have shed tears about this, and he's not my child, but he is my child. And he is, and that is what I want people to understand. That Jordan Miles is an individual, but he is representative of a collective.
Yes.
He is representative of all of us, of all of our children at that. And it's our responsibility as people to stand up for one another in the midst of injustice. It is our responsibility as people to ensure that the city we live in is the city that we want, not the city that they hand us. It is my understanding and my thinking that the DA, that it is clear to the DA that there was a crime committed. He investigates crime all of the time. He has been in his position for years. The man is very intelligent. It has to be obvious that there was a crime committed. So why the hesitation in charges being brought? Why the hesitation? If he understands that there was a crime committed, why the hesitation? Please get out of the streets. Please get out of the streets. Please get out of the streets quickly. Please cooperate. We come in peace. Please get on the sidewalk. So the police come to our communities and beat our children and beat our people and harass people and speak to them with no respect and expect respect. So we are asking DA Zapata to prosecute these three officers, to bring charges against these three officers, so we can have 12 individuals. We can have a jury. That is how our system works. That is how our justice system works. We have a jury decide guilt or innocent. Not a DA. Not a public safety director. And not the mayor. We have a jury decide who is guilty and who is innocent. So that is all we're asking. All we're asking him to do is his job and prosecute a crime. Our next speaker will be
of a church nearby. First Baptist, Pentecostal Temple, Mount Ararat.
Thank you.
I am so concerned. Where are the churches? Why do we have to wait until we have to bury someone to respond to something? Where are the churches? Where are the men and women of God? We have our children are concerned. We are tired of burying our children. We believe in peace, and we also believe what is right. Where are the churches? Where are Petra International? Where's all the churches around the surrounding area? Where are the churches in the area of city of Pittsburgh? Black and white, Jew and non-Christians. It doesn't matter. It's about God's children. It's about the young people. It's about our young generation. If we don't stand for that, if we don't come together as one body in Christ, as one body of one people of believers who want to make a difference for the young generations, my day may be up. But what is the message we're sending to our young generation? What is we trying to say? That everyone must hide? No. But everyone can stand what is right according to underneath what the law is governing. We must stand. Now I challenge you. Who do you know? Talk to your pastor. Talk to your youth pastor. Talk to your youth leader. Talk to your social worker. Talk to them. Don't be afraid, because let you know the pastor, the youth leaders, supposed to be a covering over the flock. Part of the covering is supposed to be watching over it, standing in the gap. I declare today that today will start a movement, an awakening of the minds of the people. The people need to realize that if you don't stand, someone will keep you hidden inside things when you know what's right. Just last week, I was at a pastor's meeting, plead with my co-laborers to have them come out with their parishioners. Some of the pastors saying that they wasn't able to come. I said, that's not an excuse. Send somebody. We know that we have to send your people.
Send the people.
Send the people. So I send the people. 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 Talk to 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 the people. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? You just go and tell somebody. Saturday Night Live takes place tonight at Mount Ararat.
Yes.
Talk to the people.
That's right.
Send
Talk
them
to your
the letter.
people. Talk to your brothers. Let them know that this is not right. I was behind the scene because I just wanted to cover my family. But I noticed there was not one pastor, no leader coming out. And you know what? I decided that I'm going to come out, not on the sake of because of my nephew, but because of the sake of the young people. Come here, Jamal. This is my grandson. This is my grandson. And I want to demonstrate what is right and what is wrong when it comes to him. He needs to know that you can do things in decent and order without getting radical, without getting crazy, but stand up what is right. We have a law, and we're going to hold the individuals accountable according to the law. So I challenge you, DA, step up to the plate. You put it on in the writing. Now the investigation is over. Now what is you going to do?
Yes.
What is you going to do?
Yes.
What is you going to do?
Right.
Our family, we thank you for supporting. But it's not about us. God is blessed. When I told my sister-in-law, she called me. She called me about the situation. I have been work for the county. And she said that Jordan haven't got home. I said, wait a minute, what you mean he haven't arrived home? Because I work for the county, I have access to all the county website and all the jails. I went through the website, tapped in all the prison sites and all, trying to look for my nephew. I went through the website and I discovered that I passed him up and did not recognize him until I typed it in again. And I discovered that he was in there. So we as a family, we just came up with a strategy. Not coming out with radical, but coming with a strategy of peace. Want to make a difference for the young people. Want to make a people for all God's children. We have to take a stand. You stand, you represent someone's organization, please stand and make a difference. God bless you.
We do have to make a stand. We are making a stand. But beyond making a stand, we have to make a point. And it is very real, and us standing here or just standing somewhere is not all that we are here to do. We are here to make a point to the DA that there was an obvious crime committed. He is still figuring that out, or trying to. And our reason here is to make it clear to him. So when he is in his office, when he is conversing with the Department of Justice, as he states that he's doing, that's what we're waiting on if everyone doesn't know. Right now, DA Zavala says that he is waiting on information from other governmental officials, one namely the Department of Justice. So he's waiting for information on them before he will come out and state what his position is on this case. Mark Ozark says he's at